Mr. President, our gratitude to the United Kingdom for convening an open debate in the Security Council on conflict-related sexual violence. We also express our appreciation to SRSG Pramila Patten and all the distinguished briefers for their valuable contribution and insightful perspectives. Sexual violence and armed conflicts perpetrated by state and non-state actors poses grave security challenges, and it is indeed disconcerting that sexual violence continues amidst a thriving culture of impunity in armed conflicts. Over the past decade, the Security Council has put in place a strong framework to combat this menace, but the level of compliance by parties to the conflict remains alarmingly low. We feel that the Council must absolutely focus on identifying and bridging the implementation gaps to prevent such atrocities and facilitate the rehabilitation and reintegration of survivors. Allow me to make 6 proposals very quickly. 1. National governments have the primary responsibility for prosecuting and deterring such crimes in conflict situations in their territories, even if these are alleged to have been committed by non-state actors. 2. Member states should ensure effective prosecution of sexual violence as a standalone crime. There must be no impunity for the perpetrators, and states should ensure accountability in line with their international obligations and in line with their duty to uphold the rule of law. 3. The UN, upon request, must assist national authorities in conflict areas in developing capabilities to strengthen their national investigative and legal frameworks and related structures for speedy investigation and prosecution of perpetrators. 4. As survivors of conflict-related sexual violence are not a homogeneous group, countries must adopt a tailored, victim-centered approach to preventing and responding to sexual violence in armed conflicts, in line with Security Council Resolution 2467 that calls for strengthening justice and accountability and for a survivor-centered approach in the prevention and response to conflict-related sexual violence. 5. States must ensure adequate focus and resources for comprehensive and non-discriminatory assistance for victims of sexual violence by providing for inter alia, medical, psychological, social, and legal services. And 6, sexual violence primarily directed against women and girls and also against men and boys by terrorists remains a cause of concern. The nexus between terrorism, trafficking, and sexual violence in armed conflicts needs to be broken. Going forward, Mr. President, we would recommend that a greater participation of women in conflict resolution and post-conflict reconciliation processes should be promoted to address deep-rooted inequality and subordination in society. It is important to make this a precondition for any peace process to succeed. As well, mainstreaming of the gender perspective in peace operations and increasing the representation of women in peacekeeping are prerequisites for prevention and response. In this vein, India welcomes the UN's Uniformed Gender Parity Strategy to increase the number of women peacekeepers. We also support increasing the deployment of women protection advisors for effective monitoring, analysis, and reporting arrangements on sexual violence in armed conflict. The experience of India's deployment of an all-women police contingent in Liberia illustrates the enormous positive impact that deployment of women peacekeepers can have on the effective participation of women in civilian and political life in a post-conflict situation. We would also add, and in order to promote synergy and effective coordination, that it is important to avoid duplication in the working of various UN organs. The issue of violence against women, including sexual violence, is discussed by other UN bodies, including at the Human Rights Council. Deliberations at the Security Council, therefore, should remain focused on such atrocities perpetrated in situations of armed conflict threatening international peace and security. In conclusion, Mr. President, I strongly reaffirm India's unwavering commitment to actively contribute to our collective efforts in effectively addressing sexual violence in situations of armed conflict. Lastly, I would like to address the frivolous remarks made by a representative from another delegation concerning my country. I will not dwell on this for long, but I feel it necessary to dismiss such remarks with the contempt they deserve. A country that fails to safeguard the rights of its women and girls, allowing forced religious conversions and tolerating sexual and gender-based violence, has no credibility to pass judgment on any other nation, least of all my own. Thank you.